Welcome in and good morning. And as some of you are going to be still rolling in, but welcome back for another episode of Friday Morning Fuel. I'm your wonderful host, Coach Mary. And today's episode, we're going to be doing veggie burgers. So any of my plant-based eaters, vegetarian, vegan, or even if you're a meat eater as well and just looking to add a bit more vegetables and different proteins into your diet, this is a great recipe that we're going to try out. And it's going to be especially fun because I apparently have been living under a rock and have never used an air fryer before. So I got an air fryer for this project today. And I'm going to do one quick call out for you guys that we are doing two different cooking methods today. We are going to do one in the air fryer and one in the oven. So I have the air fryer and the oven patties already going right now, but we're going to make some patties so you can see the process, and then you can also see the finished result when everything comes together. All right, so let's talk about a couple of our ingredients for today's veggie burger. So we have a couple of powerhouse ingredients that I want to give a shout out to. So the first one, we're going to be using black beans for our base. You can also use red kidney beans. Either beans are fine. Beans are a great source of fiber and protein in your diet. Next, we're going to give a shout out to textured vegetable protein, commonly abbreviated TVP. And textured vegetable protein is essentially soy that's been dehydrated, soy that's been ground and made into a flour and then dehydrated. So when you buy it in the package, you can find it in the grocery store, generally around the same aisle where you buy beans, dried beans in particular. And it kind of has the consistency of like a dry cereal or even granola. It doesn't have a flavor, and I frequently like to use it as a topping like granola in my yogurt and other as well. So textured vegetable protein, another soy option, and a good source of protein as well. A serving size, which is 1/4 cup, has 12 grams of protein. So nice way to just add a little boost there. Two more ingredients that we're going to give a shout out to, and then we'll start making our patties. Our other two remaining ingredients are going to be Vital Wheat gluten flour. So the recipe that I'm making today is not gluten-free and it's not soy-free. However, you can easily modify and swap out for a gluten-free flour. So Vital Wheat gluten is essentially a flour that has been sifted so that it is a higher gluten content, which means that it has more protein than regular flour. However, would like to call out, it is not a one-for-one swap for regular flour. So if you're looking to use it in your baking, it's traditionally used to make seitan, which is a meat alternative. So that's primarily what it's used for, but you can also use it in smaller amounts like we're going to do today as a binding agent for our veggie patties. And then the final powerhouse ingredient that I would love to shine some light on is going to be our nutritional yeast. So if you are already a plant-based eater, and especially if you're a vegan eater, you're probably already aware of nutritional yeast. The same thing, it's just an inactive, so yeast is generally active, and then you add a little bit of sugar and some water to like reactivate it and make it bloom again. However, this is inactive yeast. It kind of looks like a dried cheese, and it kind of has that same consistency and taste of like Parmesan. Nutritional yeast is very high in B vitamins, so another great addition to add in to our patties for today. All right, so with that out of the way, let's make some veggie burgers. So I've gathered a couple of our ingredients. We're going to be using black beans as our base. And our beans I have already removed from the can, rinsed, and dried them off as much as I could. We're drying off our beans so that we have a little bit less moisture in our patty. So beans are going to go into our mixing bowl. All right, before I add on my next couple of ingredients, I am cooking patties currently in my oven and in my air fryer with the directions to flip them at the halfway point. So I'm going to go ahead and flip these patties. So for anybody who's just now joining in, don't worry, you haven't missed anything. All right, we've got patties in the oven. There we go. Reset that timer. We've also got patties in our air fryer, which I'm going to flip so that they cook evenly on both sides. All right. Fantastic. So those have about another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll pull those out and take a look. All right, let's get back to our burgers. So I've got 3/4 of a cup of black beans to serve as my base. I've got 1 cup of our TVP, so that's our defatted soy flour here. I'm going to add some hot water to it to rehydrate and mix it all up together. So this is just going to add a little bit more protein into our patties. And I did the quick math on it. So for about 3/4 of a cup of beans, which is about 10 grams of protein, our TVP, which is about another 12 grams of protein per 1/4 cup. So if we extrapolate that out, I mean, we're looking at a pretty hefty amount of protein per patty. Good. We're just getting some hot water. It says to mix with hot water. There we go. All right. So ratio, 1 cup of TVP, 2/3 of a cup of hot water. I'm going to mix this up to get it rehydrated. You can also use TVP as like a meat substitute. So when you rehydrate it here like this, you can also use it for like ground beef. I've used it to make like taco meat, or you could even do chili. I mean, there's lots of options that you can do with this. You don't have to use it as a dry topping, but I like that you can use it both in a versatile way for either dry or mixed together. All right, so we've got our TVP all rehydrated and mixed up. I'm going to put this aside here. Next, we're going to mash up our beans. So we're going to mash up our beans a little bit here. I'm going to use both a combination of like a potato masher and a fork. I believe you could probably use just a fork and just mash it to the consistency that you'd like. I personally do not want chunks of beans in my veggie burger, so I am going to mash mine up pretty fine. And while I'm mashing, if you want to drop into the comments or the chat, do you like veggie burgers? And if you do you prefer to make your own? Or do you really like, is there a brand out there that makes a pre-made patty that you really like the flavor and consistency of? All right, we're almost done mashing. Fantastic. All right, we got a good base, good solid foundation of protein. Let's add some flavor to our veggie patties. All right, so we've got our mashed beans. I'm going to add in back our rehydrated TVP. For our seasoning and spice selection today, we are going in with some favorites, some garlic powder, some onion powder, some paprika. The recipe specified smoked paprika, which I did not have, but I bet is probably extra tasty. Parsley and oregano. That's going to be for our dry spices and our nutritional yeast as well. So I've already got that set aside. I will drop the recipe for you guys in our chat and in the post as well, so you can get those exact ratios that you need for each of those ingredients. We're also going to add in a little bit of flavor with some liquid ingredients, adding in 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. I'm going to add in 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce. All right, there's our 1.5. I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of oil. It didn't specify which oil, so today I'm going to use avocado oil. It's got a pretty neutral flavor. There we go. 1 tablespoon. And for a little bit of some heat, we're going to add in some sriracha sauce. You can also substitute ketchup or barbecue sauce if spice is not really your jam. It said about 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to eyeball that out. We're going to mix it all together. I'm going to go in with a spoon first, and then I'll go in with my hands and mix it all up. So I've added everything except for the Vital Wheat gluten. I'm going to leave that for last just to get this all mixed together. Really incorporate that. All right, so for cooking method, there are 2 cooking methods listed in the recipe. There's one in the oven, so you could preheat your oven to 375 and cook for 21 to 23 minutes, flipping halfway through. There's also a version for the air fryer, and we are going to test out both. So for your air fryer, you could preheat the air fryer to 350, cook for about 11 to 13 minutes, again, kind of flipping halfway through. All right, so we've got our veggie patty mix all pretty much done. The last little piece I'm going to add in is our Vital Wheat gluten, our flour, so to act as like a binding agent to help absorb some of that moisture. So for this portion, I'm going to switch over to using my hands. Since it is a flour and we're kind of kneading it into a patty, when you hand mix things, it helps to develop the gluten, and all that really just means is that it agitates it a little bit so that it really like stiffens up, which is what we want for our patties. All right. Before I dive my hands into the patties, my air fryer is getting ready to finish. So I'm going to pull out our air fryer patties for just a moment. Good. 3, 2, 1, and fantastic. All right, air fryer patties are going to be on the right side of our board, and the oven patties are going to be done in about 2 minutes. I'm going to let this sit here. We'll come back to these. We'll do a taste test, but let's go ahead and develop our mix and our gluten. So I'm just going in by hand. By this point, it's a pretty well moistened mixture, so you don't need to add any more liquids. All right, so going in by hand, just really well incorporating the flour into our mixture. If you are somebody who doesn't really tolerate gluten very well, you can also just swap and use a gluten-free flour. Any kind of flour will do here. It's really just, again, to serve as a binding agent to keep it all together in its shape. Fantastic. All right, that's all nicely mixed in together. Let's go ahead and shape our patties. All right, burgers, no different than any other food really for preferences. If you like burgers that are a little bit on the, I'll just say like drier side, obviously not unappealingly dry, but some people don't really like a big, moist, juicy patty just because, like it kind of runs everywhere and gets messy. Totally fine. If you're looking for a drier patty, making a thinner and flatter shaped patty will give you that a bit of a drier like mouthfeel. If you are looking for something that's a moisture patty, obviously keep it nice and like thick, and rather than spreading it out. All right, so this recipe makes 4 patties. I guess if you wanted to do 2 large patties, you could. But you could also easily just double the recipe to make 8 patties. That would also use up 1 can of beans perfectly, which is what I did. I made 4 patties before we started, and I made 4 patties here and now. All right. These patties are shaped. Let me clear some dishes out of the way. We are actually going to I'm going to pop 2 more into the air fryer. And then once our oven patties come out, we'll do that side-by-side taste test. There we go. Get that. Let's try that time. There we go. All right. Air fryer is preheating again. Let's move some of these dishes out of the way. All right. So we got our fresh patties. Move those off to the side here. Getting that preheated. We got about just 10 seconds left on these. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out our oven patties. All right, so taste-wise, obviously these shouldn't taste too terribly different. All right, so let's go ahead. Since the oven is already preheated, my pan is nice and hot, I'm going to add in my 2 patties to the oven. So the first round in the oven, I did about 21 minutes, and personally, they look like they're not quite done enough. So I'm going to do the second batch at like 22, 23 minutes. There we go. All right, thank you guys for being so patient. We're going to add that. We're going to add in our patties to the air fryer. Nice and hot. There we go. I really like this air fryer. I can't believe I've never used one before, but it even beeps to tell me to flip it halfway through. All right, so we have 4 patties here. We're just going to do a quick kind of taste test and consistency test. So I have 2 patties that we did in the air fryer, 2 patties that we did in the oven. Right away, the patties from the air fryer just look a lot crispier. That's because it's helping to circulate the air rather than just the air being stagnant in the regular oven. So pretty nice and firm. I can hold it in one hand. It's probably not going to break. If I break off a little bit of piece, looks nice and moist inside. Crispy edges. That's pretty good. Not bad, not bad. All right, so for the oven. All right, so the oven patties did not quite hold up as well. As you can see, I tried to hold it in one hand and my patty fell apart. That could be a number of reasons. Honestly, it could be that there was just too much moisture in my mix, so I could have added a little bit more flour. I also could have probably cooked them a little bit longer to get them truly to that crispy point on the outside and bake it a little bit more on the inside. So I would say right off the bat, air fryer the way to go for sure. As far as the flavor, since this was my first time making this recipe, it's really good on the spice. For personal preference, I would like a little bit more salt and maybe even some black pepper. I'm really surprised that that was not listed in the seasoning mix was salt and pepper because it felt like everything could use salt and pepper. But not bad. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today was our veggie patties. A great way to just kick off the summer and eating just a little bit lighter, eating a bit more plant-based. Obviously nothing, can't really go wrong there. Way to get more fiber into your diet. Dressing up these patties, we could do them any number of ways. We could do traditional burger on a bun with some lettuce, tomato, onion, some sauce, cheese if you're into that. We could also style our burgers different ways. So we could style our burgers in a bowl. So taking like the concept of a salad where you have some kind of a base, whether you want to use that base as greens, lettuce, spinach, or you could even use your base as more vegetables. You could add in some sweet potatoes. You could add in some more beans if you want to have beans on top. You could have a carbohydrate like rice or quinoa. So depending on your nutrition goals, you could do a bowl style where you add in a bit of things, mix it all up, top it with your patty, top it with your sauce, which is what I might actually do for dinner tonight is doing a burger bowl rather than a traditional burger. All right, friends, that's going to wrap it up for Friday Morning Fuel today. Thank you guys for tuning in. On on next month's episode, we're going to be doing a one-pan 30-minute meal. just to kind of save us some time as we're making dinner or prepping food for the week, and especially as we're rolling into summer when people want to really spend their time outdoors or just doing things that they love. So tune in for next month's episode, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great weekend.